Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Pruning Grapevines webinar. My name is Mara Gittleman. I am the Workshops and Education Coordinator for NYC Parks GreenThumb. We are the part of the New York City Parks Department that works with community gardens across the city. And we're so excited to be here today with our first live streamed webinar of the season at the Walt Schimmel Garden in Brooklyn with my colleagues, Eric and Isak, who will introduce themselves. And we're going to ask folks to please stay muted for the duration of the webinar to avoid any audio interruptions, and please use the chat for any Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, you can put them there. I'm keeping track of them and will ask them out loud when it's time for questions. We are recording, and you can choose whether or not your camera is on using the little camera icon at the bottom of the screen, but we will have the video pinned to just our facilitators. Thank you, and without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Eric.
Well, thank you, Mara. I'm sitting out here in Walt Schimmel Community Garden in beautiful Brooklyn, and I'm an outreach coordinator in Brooklyn with two of my colleagues here. Isak, you want to introduce yourself?
I am Isak Mendes. I'm the Assistant Director of Operations for GreenThumb, joining Eric here today for this workshop.
And a camera person, Simone. You want to introduce yourself, Simone? Nope. Okay. Simone is working in the backstage, so she'll take a bow at the end of this workshop here. So welcome everybody for Pruning Grapevines, and this is a wonderful time of the year to be pruning grapevines. And what I want to do very first off the bat is, why do we want to prune grapevines? It's really, really important. The Vikings, when they came to the New World, discovered this place that was covered with vines. They later called it Vinland. But they said it was so the vines were so dense they could not walk through it. But we're not going to have that sort of thing. We're going to be pruning vines. That's not just for walking through, but a vine, if left on its own, will basically shade itself out. So we want to thin the whole vine out so that what we have is light and air remaining, the remaining canes inside of here, and that also reduces disease. So like black spot mildew and other diseases with shade and moisture. So anyway, if we can, we're going to scoot over to the parts of a vine, Mara, if you would. And from the bottom up to the top, of course, we've got the roots, and from the roots come sometimes suckers. We want to cut those things off. From that, there sometimes may be a bulb, sort of a bulb right at the end of that. That's a grafting cut right there. So this was grafted at one point, and we want to respect that. This is the main trunk. Now this has gone in many different places. It's not straight just because it's been able to go freeform for a long time, but this will be our trunk. And what we're actually going to do, we're going to make two trunks out of this. This trunk, number 4, is going to come on up, and we're going to make a decision here. And I've talked to some of the gardeners and to Isak as to which one we're going to go with. But we're going to cut this off at this point and move on up from the main trunk to this stem. It's going to get thicker as time goes on, and it's later going to become a cordon. A cordon is going to be coming straight across here, and from the cordon goes into canes. Now the canes come up like this. So here's a really good example of a cane. It's in the wrong place, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So from the canes come in, what you have are buds inside of that, and so we've got, from the buds will be new shoots, and from those shoots we get leaves and we get the fruits. The whole thing over the top is called a canopy, and we want to watch our canopy, and we're designing our canopy as we go along. So there's that. I'm going to pass the mic. Go ahead, Isaac. Yeah, spurs coming. Spurs will be coming off of here, off your main trunk, if we could. This could be a spur, but at this point, this hasn't been spur pruned at all. So we're basically just going to be going with cane pruning. So if we could, we can go into different types of trellises and trellis works that have been used. And I think Mara's got a picture of trellises. There's many, many different types. There's the cordon trellis, which is basically comes on a main trunk and makes a right-hand turn. It's a double cordon where you've got two. You have two cordons coming on out. From those cordons come spurs, and from the spurs come prunes, come canes. We don't have anything like that. We've got the single and the double geo. That's a lot of fancy stuff. We're not going to get into that, but what we will do is we're going to work on the trellis or the pergola, the pruning, which is basically a vertical comes up, makes a right-hand turn across the whole trellis, and it becomes the cordon, and from that comes your spurs and your canes. So that's basically what we're working with here. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Isaac, and he's going to show us some of the tools that we work with here.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you, Eric. I'll just piggyback on what Eric was talking about with our grapevine pruning before I get into the tools and what we're using today. So today is March 10th, and you may ask yourself, well, why are we pruning today? This is like the ideal time for you to start pruning your grapevines, also pruning your fruit trees, and also other vines like wisteria that we have over here on our right. It's at this time, it's unusual weather today. We're having it's going to be about 55 degrees today. Tomorrow it's going to be about 70. It's unusual for New York City right now. So we actually call it the perfect time to do our pruning. You want to prune right before bud break. And the reason that is that we want to take any growth away, any old growth. We don't want the vine to send any energy into anything unnecessary. We want to encourage, we want to focus on fruit production. So this is the time where the vine is now taking energy from its roots. It's been storing all of its energy in its roots over the winter time, and it's now going to send its energy to the branches, to the vines, and to our fruit. So this is the ideal time where we're going to tell the plant, this is where we want you to send it. We want to send it to foliage, but mostly to that fruit. So we have a nice grape bounty for this season. And the other thing is it's just you want to care for your grapevine and maintain it and do this type of pruning, like Eric was talking about. You want to allow airflow through the plant. It helps prevent disease, and it, again, just encourages healthy growth of your grapevine. So before you do so, you have to get the right tools. What I have here today, I'll start with the tool that we're going to use mainly. These are some hand pruners or hand shears that we'll be using today. And that's going to be, and Eric's going to demonstrate that in a little bit, and I will as well. That's going to be like our main tool. It's stuff that we can do by hand that's in close proximity to us. We have a hand saw over here as well. We're not going to be using that today. That's going to be for larger trunk cuts that you would be doing. We were actually at a garden about 2 weeks ago, working on a grapevine, and Eric was there. He had his handsaw out, and he was taking off a major trunk that had been damaged over the winter time. Another tool which we may use, although we have the ladder with us today, is our loppers. Those are good, of course, for extended cuts, stuff you can't get close to. I've seen other people also use a pole pruner as well for vine pruning, for grapevine pruning. If you have like a very tall trellis or the grapevine has gotten away from you. We have, I'm forgetting the name of this, some support tape. Also, you often use this for like our tomatoes to support our tomatoes. This is actually going to support branches on the grapevine. I also brought some of this orange tape. This isn't used for support. This is used more for labeling. So you see Eric has labeled parts of the branches of the grapevine. We use just some regular old tape for that. But this is also really handy. I also like using this stuff, this type of tape for monitoring your grapevine. So good care of a grape is just watching it grow, seeing where it has fruited, seeing the second year growth versus the old growth, the new growth. And you can even take your labels out and label that. This is where I had nice fruit production last year, and that will help influence, what you cut the following season. I also have alcohol pads here. This may be your first day out in the garden. It's my first day out in the garden today. Maybe your shears, have been sitting in the woodshed over the season when you did your last cuttings in the fall. It's a good idea to take this out. I'm gonna use this right now. And this is just to help prevent any spreading of disease. Again, they may have been sitting, in your shed over the season after you just did some fruit tree pruning. Maybe you did some cutting of the grapevine over the season. This is a sharp edge here, so I'm just going to very carefully just going to wipe this down. I know some gardeners, some landscapers who will actually do this several times while they're pruning. Which you're welcome to do, but it always is good practice just to do it right before you get started. Couple of other things. I'm not sure if we'll have time today about diseases. Grapevine is often very vulnerable to powdery mildew. I think Eric mentioned black spot as well. Eric brought his personal neem oil, and also it's just a batch that you made, Eric, right? Black for treating black spot as well. It's baking soda, cooking oil, and dish soap. So you can make this at home, and this is a nice treatment for your leaves if you're seeing powdery mildew, which often grapes get. But if you have a well-maintained grapevine, you can help avoid those types of diseases. And the last thing that we have here on the table is a first aid kit. We're using sharp tools. We're up on the ladder. It's always smart to have that alongside you. So with that, those are all the tools that we're using today. I'm going to bring my phone with me. I'm going to walk over here. Oh, okay. So I'm hearing a beeping noise. Can you hear me all right? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, there was someone who accidentally unmuted from the audience.
Okay.
Just a quick note for Eric, when you come back, we were hearing your mic interfering, I think, a little bit with your mask. So just make sure there's enough space between the microphone and the mask, or you can, if you're far enough apart from my colleagues, you can take your mask off. Continue, Isaac.
Okay, I think we'll do that, and I'll go on mute in just a little bit. So I just want to go over a couple of things. So Eric actually cut this for us, and this is an example, I would say, of old growth, old growth wood. Our fruiting branches are more likely to fruit on second year growth. And Eric is going to demonstrate that a little bit. Second year growth, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to see on video. Is going to have, the branch is going to have more of a shinier, coppier. It's going to look new. It's going to look like a fairly new branch. While this is an example of old growth, which is going to look similar to the look of tan. Is this old growth right here? The look of new growth. Oh, this is new growth. This is new growth. Oh, okay. This example of new growth is going to have more of a shinier look to it, copper, while this is old growth or even deadwood, which is going to look more like a tan color or like cut lumber or so. I'm getting caught in here. I'm going to put this down there for a moment. A couple of things I want to just point out before I pass it over to Eric shortly. These are the nodes of your vining branches. These are important because this is going to tell us, where we're going to potentially have fruit production or leaf flooding as well. And it's here where you want to do your 45-degree cut as well. And the reason we do an angled cut or a 45-degree cut is when we get rain during the course of the season, we want that rain just to totally drain away from the bud. We don't want it to get into the plant because that's another potential for disease or even just basic rot. So I can actually just demonstrate on this, and Eric's going to do more of this as well. I'm going to do that right above the bud as well. Being careful not to, this is a dead piece of branch right here, but being careful not to cut into the bud as well. And so, not the best cut. But that angled cut will allow for water just to flow right past the buds and not collect in there. The other thing I wanted to point out here as well is these tendrils. These are our natural tape and rope that the plant uses to hang on to the trellis, also very important, and something that you'd want to encourage. There's no fruit that's going to be produced out of this, no leaf production either, that are also on the plant. So I think I'm going to pass it over to Eric if he is ready, and he's going to go more into.
Do you want an old? Here's the old growth to show you the.
Oh, okay.
But that's the third year non-fruiting stem right there.
Oh, okay. So this is old growth. Another thing I'll point out, kind of like this darker, more like dead-looking branch, and it's also starting to exfoliate as well. It's branching, so that's also going to tell you which is the old growth that we want to remove. We want to send the energy to the new growth. All right, Isaac, I'm going to go on mute, and I'm going to pass it to Eric.
Isaac, before we go over, can you show us the two woods side by side with your hand behind it so we can see the difference?
Yeah, I wonder if Eric picked some good samples here.
And can you talk us through the color difference again? Yeah, we can see it better now. Can you talk us through the color differences that we're looking for?
So this is an example of old growth. It has a darker color. I would say it's also starting to exfoliate as well. It's bark on the plant. While this is what will you say this growth is, Eric? Is this?
That's 1 year growth.
Oh, this is one year growth, which is going to have more of like a shinier color to it. And we, of course, and Eric's going to get more into this. We are going to try to encourage that second year growth where we're going to have potential fruit production. Okay.
And the other one is 3 years. That's 3 years.
Okay, and this old growth is 3 year growth. Okay, I'm going to go on mute, and I'm going to pass it over to Eric now.
Thank you, Isaac. All right, good. So again, like Isaac said, alcohol wipe is really good. If you don't have a box of alcohol wipes, you can just use isopropyl alcohol in a rag, and you're good to go. And that should really be done on every single new plant that you're using. We have no diseases from last year on this, but we're going to take all those precautions as we move along here. So the first thing that we're going to do is basically come through here. It's good. Thanks. So Isak, could I have a lopper, please? This is probably the thickest cut that we're going to be doing here. This is about as big as my finger. Lopper is really good just to come through here and take this off. Okay, that's the biggest cut we're going to see today. Everything else is going to be done with a bypass pruner. This is a Felco 2 pruner, and it is the workhorse of the garden industry. So what we're going to do is come through here, and although it wasn't set up to be trunks, these things will become trunks because we're going to tape these together.
Eric,
this is going to be...
Eric, will you talk about why you just made that cut?
Okay. I made this cut here because this was coming off of here, and I'm going to turn this whole branch into the main trunk. We're going to try with that arbor tape that Isak was showing you to try and straighten this up somewhat, but we're going to allow this basically to have no side branches at all on the trunk until we get up to the arbor. So everything is going to be cleaned up until it gets to the arbor. It's going to make a right-hand turn and just go from vertical to horizontal, and that will become what's called the cordon. This will become the cordon, and from the cordon, going across here, talking about years from now, this cordon will send out spurs, and the spurs will come on through and give us later canes, and the canes will be what's going to give us the fruit. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to go up this little vine, which just imagine 5 years from now, this will be about 3 inches thick. And I'm going to let my good friend Isak tie this off, and I'm going to get up the ladder and start cleaning up this vine as we go through here. So let's switch places here. We're keeping our 6-foot distance. So Isak is now tying that up, and while he's doing that, I'm going to start cleaning up this this plant number 1. Now this is unfortunate. This happened long ago. Someone made that cut right here, but we're going to try and undo that by making a series of like you tie that up, and then very gently just bend that up to the trellis. And I'm going to follow this trellis. I'm going to follow this branch over here. Could you wiggle that a little bit, please? Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right. You know what? Let's try and get, see the one that I cut there? We're going to pull all that stuff off. Yeah. Let me get back up. Pruning on a trellis is good exercise. You got a lot of up and down work on the ladder. So let's see, we got this, we got that. We're going to get rid of this. And you take all that off. Okay. And then this is no longer necessary. Okay, so and
right now you're just untangling the
Yeah.
large one you pruned?
What I'm doing is untangling all this, and I'm trying to have just that plant one as the main branch here. All this is extraneous. And again, when you're pruning, thank you, Isak, for pulling on this. When you're pruning, you're trying to get all of this tangle up. And as time goes on, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain. This is the first time this has happened in a long time, it looks like. So I'm going to go back to number 1 still. So this is going to come up like this. Okay, this is in the way here. Okay, I got that. So this is going to become the trunk, although it looks like a small branch. And that trunk is going to grow up here, make a right-hand turn, and from there, it's going to become a cordon. This is going to go straight across this whole trellis. This will be our new cordon here. Cut that off, get rid of that, bring this up over here. And these spurs along here, coming off things that we don't want, are going to come across, and you want to have a spur at least every handful, hand width in between. Some people say like 6 inches. We'll take care of that along your cordon. I'm up to here, and I'm going to take this off right here, right there at that point. And this is a fine vine, but you think you got it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Eric, one up there, can you talk about, I mentioned it, about counting your nodes or counting your buds?
Yeah, okay. Nodes and buds. You want to, coming off your cordon, have a spur, and you want that spur to come up and give it about 3 nodes. Now a node, I don't want to cut something that I don't want. As we come on out, I'm sorry. You want to give it, imagine that this is going to be the cordon running straight across here. You want to have 3 nodes, 1, 2, and 3, coming on out, and that will, from those nodes, you will have buds, and from those buds, you will get shoots. So, still keep looking for this. It's pretty tangled up here. I don't want to, I'm being careful here because I don't want to cut something that I want to be using for later on. This one, I'm going to have to actually work on 2 plants at once to come through here. So I've got, this is vine 1, and this is vine 2. And vine 2, as you can see, has a branch right here at this intersection, but I want this to keep on going right up this way, which means that I don't want this branch right here. So, okay, I'm cutting that, which now frees up this right here. There are 2 schools of thought on what to do with all of these branches that you cut. Some people say, chop it up, put it in the compost. Other people say it may have black spot or mildew, and just put it into trash bags and get rid of it. we're going to just assume that there might be a disease here, so we are not going to introduce this into the composting system for the garden. We're going to have a lot of twigs over here.
Eric, can you propagate those twigs?
They could be propagated. Yes, and if you do want to propagate, happen to have a propagation sample right here. I'm cutting that on a 90, cutting that off, and go from one node here. It's going to go in the soil. Up, this is the other. See, this is the node right here. So it's 1 internode, and I cut that on a 45, like Isaac was talking about. So this would be ready for propagation. There you go. I'll be seeing sunlight here soon, which is good. What I don't want to do is cut the canes or the spurs from 1 and 2. So I think 2 is coming up here. It's looking good. All right. Some of these are dead.
I'm standing on the other side of the garden than Eric. I just wanted just to reiterate about what Eric was talking about, what to do with the branches. There's 2 views. One is that you can put it in the compost, and if you choose to do that, we won't tell on you. But there is concern that if your grapevine or even if your fruit tree may be carrying disease, especially fruit, if it had any fruit production, it is vulnerable to disease. So the school of thought there, excuse me, is to just throw it away, just so you don't encourage any disease in your compost bin. But yeah, many gardeners will actually try to compost it as well.
All right. So what I'm doing now is getting rid of all of the excess growth and making way for one, what will later be a really good straight looking cordon. It's going to run right across the this trellis, allowing the subsequent canes to come across the horizontal distance. 1, 2, 3, okay. That's that here. I don't want to. My bus came out again. Okay, I can hear it again. Keeping this, okay. I've come to the end of this. All right, that's what we're looking for.
Just a note for our facilitators, we have 5 minutes until Q&A.
Okay, I'm muted. Maybe I can do my okay. All right, so that vine is pretty well taken care of. and we're going to lash this to this trellis on the long side. We're going to lash that down and allow these spurs to come on through and basically become shoots that will give us fruiting canes. I'm going to do the same thing on this one right here. How are we doing on time?
You look great. You have 5 more minutes before Q&A.
Okay.
So can you like repeat what you just did? So you just narrowed it down to one trunk on that side, and you pruned everything off so that you can allow new buds to become cordons.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take Simone's phone up with you.
Yeah. So we're going to just basically take care of this one trunk. We got 5 minutes to go here. So this trunk I'm cleaning up, and there's a lot of extraneous growth here, which we're going to eliminate. This is a trunk that I like. 1, 2 nodes on that. I'm just going to make 1 node here. I'm sorry, 1 spur. Take this one off. Leave this alone. On this one, that's 1, 2, 3 nodes on that one. I got a good 6 inches over here in between the next one. And I'm looking at, so 1, 2, 3, way up over here. So, what's that? No, that's okay. I think they can see that. And then the things that we don't want, we'll just take care of. Let's get this out of our sight here.
This is Isaac again. So I just wanted to point out that this vine that we're working on today at the Waltramel Community Garden was heavily tangled up. And who knows how long ago it had been pruned up or maintained. Before you get started, either on your grapevine or even a fruit tree, another thing to note is you want to try not to take off more than 30% of your vine. You might have done around that much, maybe a little bit more today, because we don't want to overly stress the plant by doing too much pruning. So just a good thing to think about when you're doing your own pruning is definitely, give it a nice haircut, but you don't want to take too much off. And I think I'll stay unmuted. I think while Eric is doing these final cuts, since we have about 2 or 3 minutes left, one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I'll stay on the other side of the garden before I walk over there, is about feeding your grapevine. So grapes, in general, if you've seen those images of a vineyard out west,
I'm going to get the
or in Italy,
the tape. There was arbor tape, green spool. Okay.
Sorry, Isaac, can you unmute that phone again?
Oh, thank you.
Isaac, if you can hear me, yeah, okay, thank you.
I'm unmuted again.
Okay.
While Eric does some final cuts, I was just going to talk about feeding your grapevine. And what I was saying before is that when you see images of vineyards, the ground may look even dry or arid. It's not lacking nutrients. Although grapevines are not, or grapes are not heavy feeders, you don't need to give them a lot of nutrients. They do like it, and this is a good time to do it, because now the plant is going to be sending all the energy to fruit production and to leaf production. So this is actually a good time to feed your grape. We're going to be using, and I have it there, I'm going to walk over there in just a moment. We have earth matter compost out in New York City on Governor's Island. That's where they produce their compost, so shout out to earth matter. And we're going to give a little bit of slow release fertilizer, in this case, organic compost, to our grapevine. I'm going to demonstrate that in just a moment on how we do that. You don't want to do this during the summertime, or especially not into fall, because we don't want to encourage leaf production during the summertime, more leaf production during the summertime, or more or during the fall, especially, because that's when the fall winds are happening and disease is likely to spread. Also, more leaf production is less fruit for your plant. And if you get an early season snowstorm, perhaps in New York City, that can make the plant vulnerable to damage. So I think we have 1 more minute here, and I will demonstrate this quickly. Excuse me, Simone. So I've got a spade here. I got our earth matter compost. And I'm not going to do the whole plant right now, although we could try to see how much time we have. This is a spade here. When you're feeding your plant, when you're fertilizing, you want to make sure you're not coming too close to the trunk of the tree. I'm about 12 inches away from the trunk. You also don't want to go too deep into the base of the tree, because we don't want it to disturb any of the roots. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating just a little trench, a divot here, a little hole here. And maybe Simone, if you can, I'm not sure if it's going to pick up right now because of the sunlight. But I think I'm going about 3 or 4 inches down or so. And then I'm going to take some of my earth matter compost. I'm just going to throw it in there around the base of the tree. You can also just use a regular spade or regular shovel to do this as well. I'm kind of just going around the tree. Get some of the branches here. And you'll notice I'm not just taking the compost and spreading it out around the surface of the tree. Again, that could maybe like rot out your trunk. I'm trying to keep it away from the main trunk of the tree. Not a crucial step, but something nice to do for your grapevine to encourage some more fruit production. The last thing I'll do, and which is always good for plants, just in general, is I'm laying down some untreated cedar mulch. This will be great during the summertime when we may not get as much rainfall, keeping whatever water we have, any moisture. And you're doing this again. And of course, I didn't finish composting here, but just to demonstrate, we're doing this around the base of the tree. I'm keeping it away from the main trunk because you don't want to create a pyramid or a volcano around the trunk, because that also might lead to some rot around the base of your grapevine. And we're just going to do that around in like a little donut or a circle. So I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to demonstrate that.
Great, thank you, Isaac.
And yes.
So I think we're ready for Q&A now. We have a lot of questions. Eric, I've muted your phone, so if you want to pop in and talk, you would have to unmute again. But let's go ahead and get started. So our first question is it advisable to prune the main branch almost, or the trunk almost down to its root base?
Okay. The question is it advisable to prune the main trunk down to the base?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I heard the question. Yes, it is advisable because you want your trunk. This is a poor example here, but you want your trunk to be vertical and thick. This will probably get to be like 3 inches thick, and there should be no side branches coming off your trunk until you want your side branches to be coming off the trunk. In other words, some people doing a cordon training will bring a trunk up, and then it will have a right and a left branch coming off of that. They're called cordon, and from that will grow the rest of the of your canes. On this vine, the pergola vine, we're basically going to have no branches coming up at all until we get to the pergola, and then all of our fruiting branches, our fruiting canes, will come off the trellis. Okay.
Thank you. Can you share again? I know we saw a recipe for black spot. Do you have a recipe for powdery mildew?
I don't have a powdery mildew recipe. That's a good question. I'll try to get that to you.
I'll just jump in. The recipe that Eric brought today, you can try on your powdery mildew. A lot of plant stores, even hardware stores, will sell a powdery mildew treatment that can be used as well. But the neem oil, the baking soda solution, and cooking oil and dish soap that Eric brought can also it can be tried on powdery mildew. Don't be too scared. If you get it during the course of the season, it happens to all grapevines. We just want to reduce the amount that you get over the course of a season.
Great, thank you. How much space should be left between fruiting canes?
6 inches. That's an easy one.
6 inches.
About 6
okay.
inches in between fruiting canes. As you're coming down your straight line, your cordon, you should have 6 inches in between each one. That's the best. That's the best spacing for your new canes coming in.
Great, thank you. And Eric, we're getting a little bit of feedback from your headphones mic again. If you're if Simone isn't doing any more close-ups, can you take your mic off? Can you take your mask off?
Take my mask.
Yeah,
take my mask off. Okay.
I think the microphone
right.
is interfering with your mask. Okay.
Okay.
So related question, if we want the spurs a hand width apart, are you also leaving branches at that interval too, or are you pruning branches off?
There should be nothing in between one cane and the next cane. There should be 6 inches of space. And again, we have a cordon coming up over here. There should be nothing coming in there except that a 6-inch space from node to node up to the next cane across here.
Great, thank you. And then we have some questions about the arbor tape. So how tightly do you lash the branches to the structure, and is arbor tape the preferred method, or will twine work as well?
That's a good question. Twine works really well for that. Arbor tape is also arbor tape is the preferred method, but twine will work, and you basically want to tie it like shoelace tight, so to speak. Don't strangle the thing so that you're pinching the cadmium layer of the actual twig, but shoelace tight will work.
Thank you. If you need to do successive pruning to tame back an overgrown vine, would you recommend specific times other than late winter to prune, or is late winter the best?
Late winter is the best, and your timer is the bud break. When you have pruned, when the buds that you have on your vine start to break and they're showing foliage coming up, stop pruning. You can, in midsummer, once you have established shoots coming off your canes, you have the established shoots, you can actually come on in and do some pruning for the extra volunteers that have shown up. That's okay. It's a vine. It will survive.
Thank you. And can you talk a little bit about deep watering or watering in general? But we have a question of whether the deep watering concept is appropriate for grapevines.
Grapevines are a little bit different from other plants, but deep watering is good. But the caution that you would want to do is the vines basically don't want to be flooded. They don't want their feet wet constantly. Make sure that you're growing in well aerated soil so that there is indeed a percolation that works for your soil. You can, deep watering is good because what you're doing, you're getting down to the roots and you're not putting a wet layer across the top surface of the soil, which basically it trains your roots to grow up to where the water is. Deep watering is a good practice.
Thank you. Someone has lost most of the bark on their trunk. Is this okay?
You can, yes, it will work. It's actually happened right over here. It will exfoliate, but it still will be. Here's a really good example right here. This has exfoliated, but this will be okay. The cambium layer is below this bark right here, and it's still working and functioning for the plant. Thank you.
Awesome. And then last question, going back to that idea of pruning the main trunk back. If you were going to prune it all the way down to sort of start over, what would that cut look like? Can you accidentally cut down too far? If you were to cut a trunk that's that old, would it come back, and from where?
It will come back, and I'm going to ask my good friend Simone to come on in here. Let's say we're going to do a radical cut and we want to start all over on this. So what we're looking for is where the nodes are. So that's a place right here. This is one right here. This could be one right here. We could do a cut right here and do a cut, like Isak said before, on a 45-degree angle. If we were going to cut this thing right here, the 45-degree angle is so that rain would fall off of it. You don't want you don't want to make a horizontal cut so it actually becomes a water basin, a wash basin. Make a 45-degree cut because you don't want a pool of water to be where that new cut is. The plant itself will heal over and will grow. The reason why you're doing it by a node, that'd be right here or here, it could be right over here, because from that node will grow new stems, and that you'll see that coming on out, and that will become your brand new trunk. Be careful that you do not cut below what is the graft point here. This looks like this rootstock was grafted right here, and from that graft, two new shoots came up, which later became canes. If you go below the graft point, you're going to get a completely different species of grape coming up. So leave the graft alone and come up to a node. Here's the first node right here. This could be a place. Here's the second. There's a node right here. There's a node right here. These are all possibilities that you can cut this. I hope that answers your question.
That was perfect and a great note for us to end on. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much, Isak. Thank you so much, Simone. This was a really awesome webinar. For folks tuning in, we have been recording and we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel. so that you can view it at a later date. I will email out a link once it's ready. It usually takes us a little less than a week to get it up. So thanks everyone so much for tuning in. Hope you have a happy and healthy spring week. And we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Stay safe and stay outdoors.